Hello and welcome everyone to today's workshop on developing Python web apps with Oracle Autonomous Database low-code REST APIs. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tara Van Cleef and I'm a marketing event manager for the developer initiative here at Oracle. Today we're excited to get hands-on and show you how you can leverage your favorite Python libraries and simply plug in our existing REST APIs for our Oracle database. We'll also be recording the session, so if you'd like to watch now and do the lab later on at your own pace, don't worry, we'll email the link out in the next couple of days. If you have any questions during the workshop, we'll be checking the Zoom Q&A and have also set up a channel in our developer public Slack called Workshop Python Apps. Any questions we don't get to during the workshop, we'll take live at the end, and we'll also keep this Slack channel open after the event. Here is the guide to the lab today. So I will pause here for just a moment and this link will be posted in the chat in just a moment. Okay, and today's workshop will be presented by Chris Huina, Senior Product Manager, and Jeff Smith, Distinguished Product Manager. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Chris.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining. So I'm Chris Huina, Senior Product Manager. I'm here with Jeff Smith, Distinguished Product Manager. We have one other person on our team, Zach. I'm going to minimize some of this stuff here. And you guys will get a copy of all this stuff, a PDF version of this presentation also. But the idea here today is we're going to take our REST APIs. So if you're not familiar with REST, it's representational state transfer. And we're going to take those APIs and we're going to put them into a Python Flask app. There's some JavaScript in that app also. But we don't want to expose everything that's on the database. So the way for us to do this is take things that are on the database, turn them into resources, and essentially assign an IP address to those things. And we can use different methods or different operations to request that information from our database, as opposed to you having to use your connection string to, connect to the database and query for information that way. So it exposes it to a lot of people inside your organization, but also outside your organization. And we're going to talk a little bit about security, but for the purposes of this workshop or this lab, everything's going to be unsecured. This is just like a development environment. You certainly wouldn't want to do this in a production environment. But I'm just trying to go through some of this stuff so we have some time to actually get through the lab and some questions at the end. But essentially, you on one end, you're requesting for some information on the other end, which is our database. And here are the methods that we have. So they're kind of analogous to the create, read, update, and delete actions that you're probably familiar with on the database. But instead we have got put, post, get, delete. There are a few others as well, but these are like the more common ones. And everything is going to be presented to you, the client, in in a JSON format. So we can use JSON in a lot of our different applications. And you actually see that in today's example. So everything will come through JSON. We'll structure it how we want it, and then we'll present it via HTML. We'll present it to the user on the screen. These are some of the tools that we're going to be using today. I'm going to do my best to walk through. I actually want to basically start from like ground zero all the way to the end in this lab. So we'll use database actions. It's also known as SQL Developer Web. So we kind of use those terms interchangeably. We're going to be doing a lot of things, or most of our interaction is going to be, or all of our interaction for today is going to be in the autonomous database. But the things that we're talking about will apply to if you have like a self-managed database or something that's outside of autonomous database. It's just really easy to provision a database for people like yourselves who maybe don't have access to a database and spin it up within a few minutes. This is one of four. Actually, we have got several labs, but these are like the more popular ones. So we're looking at the one that's on the far right here, but we've got these other three labs. This one here on the bottom left is actually a relatively new one. This is Zach, who's not here today. This is his lab that he created. I believe he has another webinar that's coming up. I think it might be the 25th, but we'll include that in the in any of the after action stuff as well. And then we also have a bunch of team content. So I did my best to structure it as easily as I could. But a lot of us have Twitter, YouTube. I mean, all of our LinkedIn there, and then we've got a lot of blogs as well. And Zach actually has a podcast with another product manager in another organization within Oracle. So these are all hyperlinked. You can see how they all take you to the different hyperlinks. And this is the PDF printout. So you'll all get a copy of this. I'm not sure if we'll put it in the Slack channel or if we'll send out an email afterwards. So, and then I've got to like plug my stuff. So I've got several different blogs. I've been over the last few months, I've been doing a lot of things within Podman. And so, yeah, I'm kind of on this Podman kick. So if you're new to Podman, or if you want to learn more, specifically want to learn more with Podman and like the Oracle database, then those are some good resources. And then I have some video playlists as well. So you can see the two that are there. There's 3 different ways that I've connecting to the Oracle database. And then I figured out how to use the Apple Automator folder actions on my Mac to submit a GET request, or I'm sorry, a post request, update a database in, I think it might have been in Podman. It could have been an autonomous database, but similar action. So that's what we have for the run through. So my idea here was I was going to open up the lab here. So my idea was, and this is usually frowned upon to try and do something live in real time, but I ran through this morning, ran through it yesterday, ran through this morning, just made double and triple check that everything was going as planned. But I wanted to walk through this as if I was like a brand new user. So that way we are all on the same page, and I'll just try and get through as much as I possibly can. And then you'll have a really good start. So let me do a couple things. I'm going to post this in the chat. These are some of the resources that I'm using here. So let me, if you want to refer, you can refer to this. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you the Flask documentation for how to set up Flask. And then Visual Studio Code has a pretty good one as well. You can achieve the same outcome, but I'm primarily going to show you how we're doing it on Flask. And so that's in the chat as well. And then let me put this in the Slack also. And then there may be some differences from what you see like in the lab. So I want to make sure that we're referring to the latest version of this stuff. So now you've got that in the chat, and you've got that in the Slack here. So big things. We're going to be using these libraries in these Python libraries. So obviously Flask. Folium is based off of Leaflet.js. It's a map generator that's based off of JavaScript. So that's what it is under the covers. JSON, I believe JSON is shipped with Python. So all versions of Python, I don't think we need to like import that, anything special. And then the requests library, that's how we're going to be performing like these operations, like the HTTP methods, like the gets and the posts and things like that. We're also going to be using Bootstrap. So I'm not sure what version of Bootstrap we're on quite yet, but I think this one uses like Bootstrap 4, Bootstrap 5. All right. And then we're also going to be doing some work in this Swagger editor. So when we get down to, I believe it is lab 3. Nope, it's going to be lab 2. We actually have an editor, an OpenAPI 3 editor in database actions. So I actually wanted to kind of deviate from what the lab shows and actually show you in database actions in what we call this REST workshop. So I'm going to assume that we have like our own cloud account. Okay. And I will go ahead and just I'll go ahead and log in with you. And then I'm going to log in as the admin. So the best practice here is to create a separate user for this lab. So that's what I'm going to do here. And it's very quick, very easy to do this. I will show you here. So I'm just logging into like my OCI, my cloud console. And we are going to go to Oracle database and then autonomous database. I already have two that are provisioned here, and I will just use this one. This one's my favorite here. And then in the new update, we actually have a drop down here. So I'm going to go, well, actually what I'll do is I'll show you, if we just go view all database actions, it will take us to the Launchpad, which you're probably familiar with. And then I'll pause because we've got a couple of questions here. Can you please post the URL? Oh, okay. Is there a better option than using OCI and Oracle DB packages? I mean, I work primarily for ORDS, so I will say that ORDS is better. Actually, the second post in that PDF that I showed you, that the first blog that I showed. So there's like the 3 ways to connect. The first way that I connect is actually with that Oracle DB Python driver, so you can see the difference. I don't know if it's better or worse. It's just a different implementation of interacting with the database. Like if you're like an application developer, specifically in Python, so you can compare. I mean, it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. Is not exactly the same. I mean, it's just the different use cases. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. I mean, I'm not by trade a developer, but it should give you enough understanding, or at least scratch the surface, to where you can make the decision if, you know, one is going to suit your needs over the other. Okay, so back to what I was doing here. So we are going to go down to administration. So we're still just looking for creating these database users. I've got a few in here. And then you can see here, I'm just going to create this user. And I'm going to call him August 2023 webinar. And then this is going to be super secret. This is password 1234. And you can follow along while you're doing this as well. So we've automatically granted 2 roles. This is the resource and the connect role. So let me just scroll down here. You can see this. So resource here, and then I scrolled right past connect. Okay. These are going to enable you to sign into database actions, which you'll see here in a second. We need to turn web access on. And again, for the purposes of this lab, I'm not going to require authorization here. And you can choose like your table space data, but I'm just going to stick with unlimited. And then if I got the password correctly, then this will work. I can double check and make sure everything looks good by looking at this create user toggle code down here. So everything looks good. All right, so now I have my users. So I can go to this users database actions here. And from here on out, I'm going to do everything as this user. Okay, so let me sign out as this user. And then this is what we have. So you can call it whatever you want, but yeah, just make it easy. August 2023 webinar. All right. And I'll go back to our lab. All right. So we have our account, we've got our user. Now we're actually going to get into the actual lab here. Okay. Well, we're kind of already in the lab, but let's grab the code. So you're going to download this zip right here, and it should automatically download. If not, just make sure that your pop-ups are, you know, not enabled for this, or at least you'll like allow a download. And then, so I've got this guy right here. So you can go I mean, if you want to use the command line for this, you're more than welcome to. But I have this guy here. I got that folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that into this folder. And this will be my project folder for the application. Okay. If you want, you can put this into GitHub or some version of Git, and you can do it that way, but I'm just going to do everything locally. So I'm going to unzip, and then I'm kind of skipping around here, but I'll open it in VS Code. So we just kind of take a look at it, just so you have an idea of like how it's structured. Let me pull these over here and bring this guy down right here. All right, so this is what our app is going to look like. You may have the .vnv. If you don't worry about it, because we're actually going to create a virtual environment for this, and it will automatically populate with that folder. But for your reference, and actually just to make it easier for you, we have I've included several scripts in here. So this one is going to ensure that you don't have these tables in here. So it's going to drop those if they exist. And then it's going to create all these tables, everything that you need for the lab. And it has all of the, not dependencies, but it has all the constraints and everything. So all the indexes and primary keys and things like that. So there's only there's only 3 tables that we're creating. So that's the create table. And then we've got the insert data. And then I have different definitions for like all the APIs. So I'll pause there. I want to make sure like we're all here, because the next thing that we can do is go back to database actions and then just set everything up. All right. So I'm in VS Code, but I'm gonna minimize that for a second here, and then go back to database actions. Cool. And the easiest way for me to do this is, well, there's like several ways. Oh, didn't like that. Let me see if I can. All right, so you can see in the upper right-hand corner that I'm back in as this user here. So let me go to my folder here, and then I can just drag this into here. Okay. And then I don't have to highlight everything, but I will, and I can run this as the script. Now, I think we're going to get a couple errors because it's going to recognize that like these tables don't exist, right? So that's what these errors are for. But everything else was created here, and you can see that by hitting this refresh button here. And so these tables don't have anything in them, right? So now what I want to do is go back to my folder. Okay. So if you're following along, we just dragged and dropped the create tables. Now we're dragging and dropping the insert data. So you can see here, hopefully you can see that we're just inserting data into this museums. Okay. So if you remember, long time ago, the very start of this webinar, I mentioned this Folium library that we're going to use. It's based off of leaflet.js. That is like the map rendering tool that we're going to use for the homepage on our website. And in that map will be all of these locations here within a certain radius. I've set like maybe like a 10-mile radius of a certain latitude and longitude. You'll see that, but that's what we're doing here. This is what all this stuff is. Okay. So I'll run the script, and then you can see the output, the script output down here, that everything was successfully inserted. Okay, now if I go back to that same museums table, I can click on data here, and you can see I have everything here. So I have this ID, I've got the museum name, the actual physical location, and then the latitude and longitude. So the Folium library needs this latitude and longitude. And then we're going to display some of the museum information in what's called a tooltip. So you can like hover over it, and then you'll see like the information pop up. Okay. Now the next piece here is going to generate all of our APIs. So if I go to our REST workshop right here, since this is a new user, I shouldn't have anything in here. I don't have any modules. I don't have any APIs, nothing. Okay. So what we're going to do is basically I'm stealing from myself all these definitions. Oh, make sure that I did this correct. All right, so the module is basically where all of our APIs live. We're just going to have one module, and then you'll notice that there's a hierarchy. So like module, and then, well, they're kind of like nested dolls, I guess. So like there's the module, and then within the module is a template, and then within those templates are different handlers, and the handlers are the things that do like the gets and the posts. That's where like your SQL query or your PL SQL or your business logic would go into, right? Or if you have like a stored procedure that you want to call or something, you would put that in there. There'd be like some sort of trigger, like the client would cause some sort of trigger that would execute like a procedure somewhere. Okay. So there's like several different ways that you can do this. You can do this with a script. You can actually go back to the workshop and you can manually create this stuff. But we've got the module, we've got this template, and you see this template and these handler are associated. And the way you can tell that is because if you look, that's our module, right? Which is up here. Okay. This is our pattern. The pattern and the template go together. Do you see that? Okay. And then the method, this is a post. So this handler is a post method. And then here's the logic that goes along with that post request. Okay. So if you're here, just highlight all, and then you're just going to run the script, and you'll see that everything, it might just, I think, yeah, it just gives us the one PL SQL. Well, it is technically one PL SQL procedure, right? Begin and then end down here. Okay. You're not going to notice anything after that procedure, like nothing, there's not going to be any icons or anything on the screen. But if you go back to your Launchpad and then go back to REST, you'll see we have a module now. It's like magic. Okay. And I'll show you like how I generated this. So I'm clicking on these, is it hamburger or kebab? I can't remember, but this icon here, you can export this module. And you can either do it in PL SQL or you can do it in the API. So
clearly a kebab.
It's clearly a kebab. So this is what I just ran. This is the script that I just ran. The only difference is you'll see like this top part right here where like it says enable schema. Ords is making the assumption that you haven't enabled the schema for whoever that user is going to be. So you would go in there and you would just change whatever the username is that you want to, that you want this to be associated with. But if you notice when I ran it, like I'm already in database actions, right? I'm already REST enabled as the user. So I don't need to do that. That would be like a unnecessary step. So I just ended up removing that from the script. So like when you run it, you're going to do the same thing. If you do see this, just comment it out or just delete it altogether, and then you can run the rest of it. Now, if you wanted to like customize it, then you might want to manually go in here. Like if you wanted to customize the name of the module, or if you wanted to customize like the pattern, and change it something different, then you can do that. So I'm gonna pause. I'm want to make sure that I'm like not skipping anything here. And then I'll just drill down into one of these ones. So if I go to this create order, this is what the handler code looks like in here. So we'll be at like task lab 1, task 3. So I'm switching gears here. So you want to jump to the Flask documentation. That's what we're going to be working on next. All right, so there's a couple ways that you can do this. I'll just go straight to, I'll have this open here, and then I'm going to go to terminal. And I'll pull this down here. So in the Flask documentation, go to that first page, that installation, and then they've got different options here for Mac, Linux, and then Windows. So just make sure that you're on the correct one here. So I've already created my project folder, which is going to be this Flask orgs lab main. Okay. And so in my terminal, I'm going to cd to my desktop. And then this is the one here that I want to cd to. So you can see if I print my working directory, you can see where I am right now. Okay. And then you can see all the different files in here. Oh, I see what's happening. It's not going to like this because yeah, it's like in a folder within a folder. I'm not sure if you saw that. I want it to look like this, right? I had like a folder in a folder because when I unzipped it, it did that. So just make sure that you don't make that same mistake. Okay. So what I'm doing here is basically adding this this virtual environment here. So I can show you, this is what I was talking about. So I could actually just remove this altogether. And then you'll see what happens here. If I create this virtual environment again, it will just repopulate that with all the different binaries and everything. So if you don't see that, and I think some people were not seeing that on Windows. If you don't see it, it doesn't matter. Like you're just going to create it. You're just going to create it again. And then you can, from here, you can activate the virtual environment. So the way to do that is just these commands here. And you'll, why didn't it, well, didn't like that because I can't type. You know what? I'm just gonna switch straight to VS Code. I don't want to diagnose this. So I'm in this folder here. And let's try this again. VS Code sometimes will recognize the that you're in the virtual environment. So it's vin bin activate, venv bin activate. It doesn't like that. Yeah, okay. I was mistyping it. So it's a dot, I don't know if that's changed from this version of Flask versus the last version of Flask, but you can see I'm in this virtual environment here. So now everything I'm doing, all the things that I import are going to be within this virtual environment. Okay. So if we go back to the workshop, this is where we are here. We're going to want to make sure that we have all the libraries that we need. So you can do this with pip list. And you can see I don't really have much of anything. So if I open, doesn't matter if you open lab 1 or if you open lab 3, you can see here that we're going to need Folium. Obviously, we're going to need Flask. We'll need requests, and then we'll need JSON. Okay. So let's do this. We'll do pip install Flask. And it should, yeah, the latest version is Flask 2.3. And then we'll do pip install Folium. Oh, so I can't spell. And then let's see, pip install, what else do we need? Requests. And then you can try a pip install JSON, but I don't think it'll work because it already comes with Python. And now if you do pip list again, it should show everything that you've just downloaded. So you notice how it like increased tremendously there with Flask. It will pip install a lot of these dependencies. You won't have to worry about that. the main thing is you just want to double check and make sure that Flask shows it 2.3.2. I tried this yesterday and it wasn't updating. So what I had to do was actually deactivate. So if you're running into that problem, just deactivate your virtual environment. You see how it got rid of that? Just deactivate it and then reactivate it again. You can just hit your up button to find that command. We haven't done too many since we've ran all those pip installs. So this one says a dot space dot venv bin activate. And then I can just go back to pip list again. So like I said, you just want to make sure that your Flask is set up to 2.3.2. Okay. All right. Okay, so this has changed a little bit. I want to change this in a documentation. There's actually a much easier way to run this Flask application, but I would recommend you do it in debug mode. And I'll change the commands. I haven't changed them yet. But this is how I'd recommend doing this. That way, if you make any code changes on the fly, you don't have to like hit save, and then you don't have to deactivate the Flask application and then reactivate it again to see your changes. Like you can see the changes in real time. So you can go to, this is on the second page of this is in the quick start section of the Flask application. So just scroll down to this first line right here. You can copy and paste. You can copy that, bring it over here, and you'll just make some small changes. So honestly, guys, it doesn't really matter if you use the lab 1 or the lab 3, because we don't have any, if you want to see everything populated with this pre-existing database, you can use that. So, or if you want to just, you can run this one. It's not gonna populate anything because there's no endpoints or anything in lab _3. So I will do the first one so we can see this. So it's lab _1 _app, and you don't have to have the .py file. Yeah, so it should be flask -- app and then followed by the app name, and then run it in debug. And then this should, if everything works, again, this is where it could come crashing down. You're not really supposed to do like live demos like this. So, but this worked. So that is exceptional. All right, so this is, you can see how this is local, and this is the port that's using. So this is not actually like accessible anywhere aside from your, from your computer. Okay, and this is what our lab looks like. So I think I do some I do like a little bit of a tour. We threw in some ORDS resources in here. You can link out to those ones. Again, I'm not a developer. You know, a lot of this is generic code that I've repurposed here. But this is the Folium map that I was talking about. So if you click this tooltip, it will just show you some of the basic information. And I'll just jump back to the code. You can kind of see what this is doing. So like upon load with this one here. So upon load, what happens is we've already created these tooltips. So when the page loads, it goes to our database and requests information from like this museums table. And then it just creates a list based off of all that information. And then we iterate through that list to create these tooltips. And then we tell Flask to represent it. That's how we do that. So that's how that's actually happening right here. So I've hard coded the start position. You can see right here. It's like downtown Las Vegas, you know. But if you were smarter than me, then you'd be able to figure out how to. There's an option where you can click the location and it'll jump to the location. The only problem is I've only included museums for like the Las Vegas area. So, but if you wanted to, you could proof this out for somewhere like near you, and you can make some small changes and play around with that. So that's what that looks like. And I believe I just continue going to the tour. So this is a very simple application. So if we want, we can go and we can select these day passes. You've got 3 different day passes. This information here comes from a REST API. So if I go down to this get description endpoint, this is what that looks like here. Okay. So this is like 0, 1. On the back end, this is like 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. So if I select 0, 1, that's like it adds that to the end of the URL, which you see right here, plus, and then it just gets that item and it gets the product description for that item. Okay. And it will do that in real time here. So that's pick 3 and then unlimited. And then if I want, like, I'm like, okay, I like that one. That one sounds cool. I'm going to go ahead and just like increase the amount of passes that I need. And it's going to calculate the price for me. Now, the way it does that is if I go to, the order form.html, it's using this JavaScript function right here, which I believe is right here. This guy right here. So it calculates it for you in real time. All right. Now, if I want to complete my purchase, I'll just complete my purchase. I think in the lab, what I say is try and pick something that's like unique to you. But if you're doing this in real time, you don't have to worry about picking something that's unique to you because you're going to be doing this in your own tenancy. So I believe this one right here is the one that I chose. You can see like all the different people that have chosen things prior to you. Okay. There's no signing in, there's no authentication or anything. So it's not saving any of this in like a basket or anything like that. But if I'm satisfied with this, I can go back home and I can start all over again. Okay. And I'll pause there and actually just check the time, see how we're doing. No questions, no further questions. All right, so let me exit out of that and then I'll go back to our workshop. So where are we? We're somewhere down here. I think what I say is to go and personalize this right here. But I'm just gonna kind of skip that. You can change that if you want to. Let me get to showing you like if I was to do this on my own, what this would look like. So you can hit Control-C to exit out of the Flask application, or to stop the server, like to stop this server right here. Okay. I'm going to exit out of this, and then I'm going to go to lab_3. So if you want to click that, if you have this open, you can take a look. So I tried to make this as like not like as easy to understand as possible, but anywhere you see words URI, that's where you're going to put like your endpoint. So let me go back to, I'm using these terms interchangeably. I'm using like API, endpoint, URI. They all kind of mean the same thing. What we're thinking. Got like several different windows open. All right. Go back to let's see, we want to, you know what, this didn't generate the way that I wanted to. So let's see here. Let's look at these scripts. For some reason, this didn't generate the way that I wanted to. Oh, it's because I don't have everything in here. All right, let's try this again. I'm going to delete this module, start over again. I think I grabbed the wrong script, which is fine. You can quickly do this here. This looks more correct. And then, like I talked about, I want to get rid of this. So I'm just commenting that out, running this script. It was just missing some endpoints. That's what I was catching here. So now that that's successfully compiled, I can go back to my REST workshop and I should see several more of these endpoints. Okay. So want to make sure that you're running the new script. Just make sure that you've comment out the schema here. And what I'll do is I'll show you, like, if you're going to do this on your own, go to lab 3, and then we're just going to start populating all of our endpoints. So for this one, because we're going to be working with the museums table, we want to make sure that we get this museums endpoint. And you can see what this looks like. So we've got 2 setups right here. We can add a museum, and I think I do that in the lab, so you can try that on your own. We can add to the museum with this post request, and you can see what this logic looks like here. Okay. Or we can just get items, right? So that's what that looks like. And you can actually test this here if you want to. You can do this with all your endpoints. You can test this here. You can see what you're going to be getting back, right? But I just want to copy this guy. So this is open a new tab, and this is copy to clipboard. So I'll make sure I got that. And then I'll come over here, retain the quotes, and then just put that in there. Okay. So that's our museum. And let's scroll down here to the next route that has a URI. So you can kind of look at this and see what's happening. This is saying, like, we're going to get price. So I've tried to name these so that they're pretty, like, easy to find. We'll go back to the module here where we say get price. So this one here, so we're products, pricing, and then product ID. So in the app, we get the price by the product ID. If you remember, you can do 01, 02, or 03. So I can do this right here. It's going to ask me for this variable. So I'll do 01. Like, let's say, for instance, I in that drop-down menu, I selected 01. Then it's going to return that price. So that's kind of how that works. All right. So copy that, and I'll put that in here. Make sure that you get rid of the brackets also. Okay. Now I am going to leave this in here because this is a mistake that I made, and hopefully I have time. Yeah. I'm going to leave this in here because this is a mistake that I made, and I want you to see this. Okay. Because this is actually like an ORDS syntax. It's pretty powerful, but well, I don't want to say too much more. All right, so we'll go down to get description. So that's the next one that I need. So I can use these breadcrumbs to go up, levels. So I'm going to go to products, description, product ID. Now I don't have to, I can just copy here, but I'll show you, like, what this looks like. Copy this. I'll go back to VS Code. Copy that. Same thing. You see this here? I'm going to leave that. It's going to mess up, but I want to show you. I want to show you how simple of a fix that is. Okay. So the next one is order form. So you can see by the method here that this is a get. Okay. So let's go to orders, and then we're going to get this one here. Copy that. And then put that in here. And we're going to go to order history. This one is going to be, do I have an order history? So orders, and then this one will be, I think this is the same one here. So and then this one is like our checkout. I'm not sure if you remember in the HTML, it said like complete my purchase or something. So there's you can see this for a couple, you can see this, it's a post. So you know that we're going to be posting something to this table here. So, and then this is our orders post. So we're going to put that right here. And then that should be it. So I just want to double check this one because this one looked like kind of funky. Oh, this is get products. I'm sorry. So I did that wrong. So we're going to get products. I knew that was not correct. Kind of threw me off. I remembered we called it order form, but you're on the order form and you need to get the products from from this table here. All right. So I'll pause here for a second, make sure that everybody's caught up. If you are following along, again, I'm in lab_3_app. Okay. I have not deactivated my virtual environment. I have just deactivated Flask. So now what I can do is I can just hit scroll up and make this a little bit larger here. And depending on which one you ran previously, you want to just, oh, I got 2 underscores here. That's not going to work. So we're going to rerun this. And if everything goes well, if I entered in everything correctly, it should work. Oh. All right, so now we're using the endpoint that you just created to duplicate what the lab is doing here. All right, and here, this is where this will screw up. If I do this, if you recall, when I picked an item, a description would populate, but you can see it's not working, and there's like showing there's no value here. All right. And the reason why is this is a really easy fix. I've made this mistake a bunch. So if in your endpoint, you're saying that, hey, we expect a parameter. So that's what it looks like in here. Do you guys see that? We're expecting this parameter. You're not going to include that in the URI. You're going to remove that because what we're doing is we're replacing that with the actual parameter. Okay. And then same thing here. That A is coming from when we interact with our app here. So I should be able to save this and then just reload. And then now it's populating my descriptions because I've corrected that, and it's giving me the price. And now if I go back here to adjust the price, everything should work. Right? Now I can just complete my purchase. I think in the lab, I say like choose something that's unique, some random number, like if just something random like this. So like I'm $274.95, right? So I can complete this. And since I'm in my own tenancy and this is brand new, like it's going to be the only purchase in there. All right, so this is cool. You can see all this happening in real time. So I can go back to my worksheet here, get this out of the way, right? And so what we just did was we were on the order page, we selected an order, we completed our purchase, and we know that purchase, right here, is going to submit something to this table, this orders table. So I should, in theory, be able to see a single order in that table. That's what just posted from the Flask application. And you can verify this is the same thing, right? So this is my product ID. That's the ID I use to get the price in the description, a quantity of 5, and then that's the total price. And you can see it's the same exact thing here. Wow, this hour went by quick. So I'm gonna pause here and see if anybody has any questions. And while that's happening, the one thing I did want to show you is we direct people to this Swagger editor. So if you've seen that before, like there's directions on how to do that for you to be able to test all the different endpoints and everything. There's a much easier and I think more elegant way to do this, and you can do it within database actions. So if I go to REST, this is if I want to test like everything in my module all at once, okay? And I want to do it like in a controlled environment. So going back to this kebab here, I can go and I can open API view. And what will happen is it will give me the same kind of representation here. So if I want to get museums, I can try it out, execute, and it will show me, it's going to show me everything because I haven't passed any parameters or anything. You remember how in Folium I had hard coded the Latin long? So you can do that in the app, but here I'm just saying like, okay, I'm just testing it and say like, does this endpoint work? And then like, what does it give me? And you can see here's the JSON representation of all my items and everything's nice and nested. I can cancel, and then like I can do that for pretty much everything. So I can go here to descriptions and I can say like, I'm gonna try it out. I know I've got 3 products. So I can enter in 1 and then execute. And it's going to give me that single description there. So I'm basically just simulating what I'm going to be doing in that Flask application, but in this controlled environment. And it's not going to make any changes to like my database or anything, or any of the tables or anything like that. And I can do the same thing here. I can try it. I can do product ID 2, execute, and then the same thing. So it's giving me that product price. And we have 5 minutes left. So Tara, I'm not sure if I can stop talking here. I think if you guys are following along, you're like 85% of the way there for this app. The idea was just to get you to the point to where you can start playing around with this. And then if you want to make some changes to like the tables or even the endpoints or everything, but if you run all these scripts and then you run the new definition script, you have like everything you need to start tinkering around with this app. Again, the only thing is you'll just want to comment this first line out here. Now, if you're handing this off to somebody else, then you could leave that in there and then you would just have them remove that schema name with their schema name. But aside from that, everything else is pretty self-explanatory. So I have included comments. I tried my best to be as like descriptive as possible in all these comments, so there wouldn't be any question. But we're going to be, I'll stay on the Slack channel for another hour or so. We'll send out the PDF that has all of our contact information, so you can reach us out. If you at a customer site, if you want us to come in and do like a deep dive for you and like the rest of your team, please reach out to me like that. That's a weekly thing that we're doing and I want to continue to do. Yeah, so I think that's like my spiel. I'm not sure if Jeff, if you have anything, if we want to close it out, but I don't want to do too much more. Like I said, you should be ready to go into lab 3 now and review it in a little bit more detail, like a little bit more intricate, like what all is happening here. So hopefully I've set you guys up for success here. And like I said, if you need a little bit more, both of us will be online.
Yeah, we'll be on Slack. If you've got questions, let us know. If you want to build your own Python app and have the data sourced from an Oracle database and you need help building REST APIs, then Chris and I are both available and excited to see what you folks put together.
All right. Thanks so much. That concludes everything for today. Thanks again so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Jeff.